Good evening and warm welcome to all of you for the Turtle Smart Talk Series Lecture 11, Surface Dressing Theory to Practice by Professor Dr. A. Veeraraghavan, retired professor IIT Madras. This is the 11th talk series organized by Turtle Smart Solutions as part of our initiatives to provide a knowledge sharing platform among engineers and academicians through interactions with eminent technocrats from academic and industry. We cordially welcome all the enthusiasts to the session in the series organized in collaboration with Association of Engineers Kerala Thiruvananthapuram District Committee, Indian Contact Institute Thiruvananthapuram District Center, and High-Tech Total Solution Providers. The presentation will be followed by a panel discussion among industry experts and academicians, including Professor Dr. Prithvi Singh Kandal, Professor Dr. Rajan Chaudhary, Professor Dr. Anil Kumar, Engineer Anil Kumar RS, Engineer Sandeep KG, Dr. Vishnu R, and TK Subhash. So please stand tuned till the end of the session. Now I request Engineer Ajit Kumar GS, Chief Consultant, Turtle Smart Solutions, to formally introduce and invite the guest speaker. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. It is an honor to introduce Professor Dr. A. Veeraraghavan, a luminary in the field of civil engineering. A former professor at IIT Madras, his contributions to pavement engineering and road safety have not only shaped our infrastructure landscape, but also saved countless lives. With a doctorate under the legendary Professor C.E.G. Justo, Dr. Veeraraghavan's research has pioneered groundbreaking solutions, leading to revisions of national codes and earning him the record for the most papers presented at the Indian Road Congress. Today, his expertise, recognized through prestigious awards like Vishwakarma Award, continues to guide and inspire a generation of engineers. So please join me welcoming Professor Dr. A. Veeraraghavan, a giant in his field, whose insights promise to illuminate this seminar with the brilliance and depth. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. There's an issue in sharing the screen. Is my screen visible?
Sir, not visible, sir.
Sir, it's not visible, sir.
I believe the organizers must enable his screen sharing.
Maybe that is an issue. Will you please enable me to share my screen?
Yes.
Is it visible now?
No, sir, not yet.
Shall I log out and log in? Now, no,
No, sir.
In fact, screen sharing has been enabled for everyone, I believe.
that was not visible.
No.
Nice, sir.
Jidin?
See, I have choose what to share with the Google. One is Chrome tab, Windows, entire screen.
You can share the windows, I believe.
Window only I have shared.
Then PPT.
PPT.
Sir, what about the entire screen?
You can try the entire screen.
Entire screen?
Entire screen also I have shown. No. No.
No, sir.
What I should do now is I have to share my PPT.
And
Why am I not able to see my share?
you can send the file to organizer, you can share it.
Sir, try logging out and log in again, sir.
Let me try that. Let me try, or else I'll send it to Jitin.
Okay, sir. Okay. So I'll send the mail ID of the organizers. You can mail to them.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Okay.
Let me try this. Jitin, check whether you have received the file.
Okay. Okay. N- Noted, sir. Hello, sir. I received the mail. I just share it in a minute. Is the screen visible now?
No,
Yes, sir, visible.
for me, it's not visible. It was visible, now it has gone.
I'll share once again. Sir, is it visible now?
Yeah, it is coming.
It's coming.
Yes.
Okay,
Ah,
thank
now
you.
it's perfect.
Yeah, that's the full screen.
Yes, sir, it is in full screen now.
Yeah,
Okay, fine.
that's all, sir.
Yeah, I'll manage because I'm able to see the other as well. Okay. It's fine. Can I start?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Good evening all to all. I'm very sorry that we did not try the rehearsal of sharing the screen before the webinar. So what I'm going to talk today is about the surface dressing theory to practice. This webinar on surface dressing has earlier been conducted by Professor Kandal effectively, later by Professor Rajan Chaudhary. And now it is my turn to share my thoughts on surface dressing theory to practice. What I'm going to tell is nothing new. It's all in the guidelines specifications, but maybe in about 30 minutes time, I will be able to present the theory, practical issues, and points for discussion. Next slide. So surface dressing, as you know, is the application of the bituminous binder and a single size stone aggregate chippings on a prepared base layer. It can be in one layer or more than one layer, rolled to form a wearing surface. It can be used for all type of roads, from rural roads to highways. So surface, go to the next slide. Next slide, it is gone. Next slide. It's next slide. Yeah. Surface dressing is application of a layer of binder on a prepared base. Next slide. On which you spray a layer of aggregate and roll with a pneumatic roller. This is called as single coat surface dressing or single chip seal. Click. Click. On which you apply the second layer of binder and the second layer of small aggregates, which will key in to the voids in the coarse aggregate, and then roll with a pneumatic roller. Click. This is double chip seal or two coat surface dressing. Click. Yeah, click. So what is the function of this surface dressing and what is the expected life? It's a cost-effective treatment generally used to provide a dust-free wearing surface on a granular base. It will also serve as an impermeable layer to prevent entry of water to the lower layers. Thirdly, it affects the disintegration of the pavement surface, and also it will provide a non-skid resisting surface. It can also be used as a renewal coat for periodic maintenance of bituminous surfaces. It will seal the crack, prevent traveling, reduces the oxidation of the previous or old bituminous layers. So generally, it is a very cost-effective surface treatment for low-volume roads, but can also be used as a renewal coat for the high-volume traffic. Even as per the ministry, even up to 2,000 commercial vehicles per day, this layer can be used. The next question arises, what is the life of this surface dressing? The life, as per the guidelines of Ireland, life can be 5 years for adult roads, 7 years for regional roads, and 10 years for local roads. Next. So what are the other limitations of this surface dressing in terms of riding quality? Remember, this surface dressing is a wearing course, generally used for low volume roads, and it does not enhance the structural strength, nor does it restore the riding quality of the surface having large surface irregularities. So if you expect a wearing surface riding quality similar to that of the conventional BC, you may not get the riding quality, but comparable to the thin layers. The roughness for a very good road as per IRC 82 is 3,200 millimeters per kilometer for a good road. Comparatively, for MSS, it will be 2,600, and for previous carpet, it may be 2,800 millimeters per kilometer. Fair road, it can be between 3,200 to 3,800, whereas for MSS, it may be from 2,600 to 3,200. For poor road can be more than 3,800. So generally, it may not give you a smooth surface, but it will be a durable, long-lasting wearing course, especially for low volume roads. Next. So what we do is that we apply a layer of binder. There is a called as an average dimensions, least dimension of the aggregate. So if the aggregates are stacked on a surface, the average dimension is considered. So this again depends upon the hardness of the surface on the traffic level. We should select the aggregates. Initially, when the aggregates are dropped from the spreader, the voids will be around 50%. After rolling, it reduces to 30%. And with the traffic, finally, it may be around 20%. So the optimum thickness to which the binder can be spread can be about 75% of the vertical dimension of the aggregates. If you have more binder, it will result in bleeding. The binder's function is only to hold the aggregates together. And if you have less binder, then it results in raveling and loss of aggregates. Next. What are the grading requirements? Generally, as per the specification, there are 4 gradings: 19 millimeter, 13 millimeter, 10 millimeter, and 6 millimeter. So as can be seen, these are single size aggregates. 13 in the sense passing through 13.2 are retained on 9.5. Passing 10 mm size means passing through 9.5 and retained on 6.3. Even though there are 4 gradings, generally we adopt 13 and 10. 19 is permitted depending upon the traffic level and the hardness of surface, and 6 is generally not used. But specifications are there, we can choose them as well. I'll tell where can be used. Next subsequent. So where can it be used? We can use either a paving grade bitumen or you can have a rapid setting emulsion. The weather condition that is recommended as per specifications are that the minimum air temperature, if you want to use a paving grade bitumen, is around 16 degrees centigrade, whereas for a rapid setting emulsion, it can be 10 degrees centigrade. The surface should be dry whenever you use a penetration grade or paving bitumen. Surface can be dry or damp when you try to use an emulsion. Next. So for any pavement layer wearing course that when you want to lay, you have to prepare the base. The surface has to be shaped because the surface dressing will not ensure a good perfect profile. The profile should be made up in the base course. The base course can be waterborne macadam or it can be wet mix macadam. So you have to use a hard or soft brushes to remove the cake soil or blow the soil with this extra fine soil. You can apply either a paving grade bitumen or you can use an emulsion as a primer on a granular base, preferably slightly dampen whenever you want to use an emulsion as the binder. But you have to ensure that uniform spread of the binder and that you have to check the quantity of spray of the binder. Next. So these are the quantity of binder to be used for primer. As you are aware, for wet mix macadam and waterborne macadam, as per the specifications, the rate of spray varies from 0.7 to 1. For a mechanically stabilized base, it varies from 0.9 to 1.2. For a gravel base, crusher and macadam, crusher rock base, it can vary from 1.2 to 1.5. So before you apply surface dressing on a granular layer or a stabilized layer, mandatorily the prime coat has to be applied. Next. The binder, as I just now mentioned, can be either a paving grade bitumen of VG10 or it can be a rapid setting cationic emulsion. And the temperature at which this can be applied is for paving grade bitumen can be between 165 to 175 degrees centigrade, whereas rapid setting emulsion, it can be between 50 to 70 degrees centigrade. And the bitumen content should be previous place. Should be at least 65% by weight of as per the IRC 110/2005. Next. The aggregates, as I was mentioning, are single size aggregates. 13 means 13.2 passing, retained on 9.5. 10 means passing through 9.5 and 6.3. These aggregates, are the two most commonly used aggregate gradations. That's why I'm not talking about 19 and 6. But in addition to the size with the aggregate should also meet the physical requirements in terms of Los-Angeles aberration value or aggregate impact value. Shape, elongation index, and the flakiness index are 30% maximum. The minimum retained coating should be 95. But for low volume roads, a flakiness index up to 25% is permitted. Water absorption should be less than 1%. Soundness test, whether you use it should be between 12% and 18%, depending upon the chemical that you use. And the unit weight should be a minimum of 1120 kg per square meter, cubic meter. Yeah, next. This aggregate should be clean. This is an issue that needs discussion at the end. The aggregate should be free of dust. How to ensure aggregate free of dust is a question. I think we'll discuss it by the panelists. Washed aggregates are preferred, but we have never been washing the aggregates. So dusty aggregate will be an issue. Second is the mechanical spreader should be calibrated. You have to apply the aggregates at a uniform rate as per the specifications. Here again, you can use either uncoated aggregate or you can use a pre-coated aggregates. Generally, pre-coated aggregates are preferred, but again, the field engineers have got their issues and concern on pre-coating the aggregates. Is again a second point which I request the panelists to consider this. Pre-coating is done generally with 0.75 to 1% bitumen by weight of aggregate. You have to cure it at least for 1 week before the application. These aggregates, when they are pre-coated, since the dosage is only 0.75 to 1%, they will be free-flowing. They will not be sticky. And there's no problem of transportation as well. But there can be some delay in setting of the emulsion, but not a very significant issue. So you can use either uncoated aggregate or pre-coated aggregate. The dosage of the binder will vary. These are issues that needs debate, discussion at the end. Next. So this is how you can see there are two cases wherein the binder is first applied. This binder that is first applied serves as a waterproof layer. That is the most important advantage of this surface dressing. Secondly, you can apply aggregates. There can be issues that we don't have the chip spreader. How do you go about it? I am coming to that issue subsequently. Next. We can, as can be seen on the slide on the left, you can, the first is apply a layer of bitumen on which you can apply a pre-coated aggregate. On the right, you are able to see a chip spreader, which is an attachment to a tipper, which is also available. Either you can use that or this. You can use either a pre-coated aggregates or uncoated aggregate as per the specification. But considering the advantage of the pre-coated aggregates, it is preferable to use a pre-coated aggregates. Let us talk about the issues and concern of using a pre-coated as well as uncoated aggregates. Next. This application rate for binder for a non-pre-coated aggregates, when you have 13 millimeter aggregate, if you use an emulsion, it is 1.5 kg per square meter. But when you use 10 mm aggregate, it is 1.3 kg per square meter. But when you use a bitumen, PG10, it can be 1 and 0.9 kg per square meter. Next. But when you use a pre-coated aggregate, the quantity of the aggregates are, binder are 0.8 and 0.7. So in case of two coat surface dressing, 40 to 45% of total emulsion required is applied for the first application, and the balance is for second application as per IRC 110. But this quantity that has been prescribed excludes the binder that is used for pre-coating. So these are the binder quantities for the existing bituminous layer or primed surfaces. Next. Rolling. The preferred rolling is pneumatic roller. We can also use a steel wheel roller, but when you use the aggregates or single size aggregate, when you use a steel roller, generally the aggregates get crushed. So, but whereas a pneumatic roller has got a kneading effect, it will ensure that better embedment of the aggregate on the binder layer, and hence pneumatic roller is preferred. I think Professor Kandal will again further substantiate this with his experience why a pneumatic roller should be used or preferred over a steel wheel roller. You have to use 60 to 80 kilonewton tandem wheel roller only if pneumatic roller is not available. Avoid excess rolling. You have to continue the rolling until the aggregate particles are firmly embedded in the binder. This is the difference between the premix and this layer of surface dressing. Here, the object is not to ensure a density of compaction. Object is to ensure that aggregate particles are firmly embedded in the binder. This is possible with a pneumatic roller, and hence pneumatic roller is preferred. Next. The second kind of surface dressing is preferred, two-coat surface dressing is preferred on a high rainfall region as well as the traffic level is high. So this should be applied after the application of the first layer. Generally, it is said that the second layer should be applied after allowing the first layer to traffic for 2 to 3 weeks. But we have been attempting to lay the second layer simultaneously. This is again another third point of discussion that we'll take it up at the end. The aggregate used, as can be seen, as was shown, the aggregates should key in to the voids in the larger size aggregate. But they follow the same procedure of applying the layer of bitumen and spraying the aggregates which will key in the voids in the larger size aggregate. Next. After this, when the bitumen emulsion is used, open the road to traffic not earlier than 4 hours after the rolling, preferably after 24 hours. The general rule is that open the road to traffic on the following day. If unavoidable, limit the traffic to 20 kilometers per hour. Why? Because at high speeds, aggregates become loose, not get before they break, the emulsion breaks. If you allow the traffic, the aggregates will get dislodged. So loose aggregates will be unavoidable. There's a common problem, common complaint. If never you lay a surface dressing, there are loose aggregates. Loose aggregates are unavoidable. You can remove the loose aggregates by light brooming before opening the road to traffic, but don't apply an excessive pressure to the surface. And if there are excess aggregates, it can be broomed to the shoulders. Next. The quantity control. Any construction requires a quality control. The quality control checks are very simple. Check on the gradation, check on the binder application rate, check on the rate of spread of the aggregates, check proper embedment of aggregates, the binder, at least 70 to 75% should be embedded. So you check the spray of the binder using a felt. You can take the weight of the felt before and after. That tells you the rate of spray. You can check the spread of aggregate using a tray, before and after. Also, you can check the embedment of the aggregate, that at least 70 to 78% of the aggregate should have embedded into the binder layer. So these 3 checks can easily be done at the site. No costly equipment, quality control equipment is required to check the quality of construction in the field. Next. So as can be seen, the chip spreader calibration is also possible. You can spread a felt or a cloth, so you can take the weight before and after. That tells you the rate of spread of the chip spreader. So this can easily be used for calibration of the rate of spread. Number 1, the opening. Number 2, the speed of operation of the unit. Both are to be controlled. Next. Also, you should also check the uniformity of flow of the binder. So you can check whether nozzles are clean, whether rate of spray is uniform. You can check the weight of the binder in these silos before and after. So that will tell you what is the quantity of spray of the binder. Again, the rate of spread to be checked. Next. So there are simple tests to distinguish between rapid setting, medium setting, and slow setting emulsion. These are available in the do-it-yourself booklet prepared by Professor Kandal and Professor Rajan Chaudhary. So it says that mix about 5 grams of emulsion with about 100 grams of moist aggregate. If the mix can be made with at least 100% coating, it is MS or SS type. If the emulsion sets or breaks without the coating aggregate, it is RS type, which is generally preferred for the surface dressing. To differentiate between medium setting and slow setting types, about 5 grams of emulsion with and about 100 grams of aggregate, if the mix can be made about 100% coating, then it is slow setting type. Otherwise, it should be a medium setting type. So you have to check what is the type of emulsion that is used. Preferably, we use rapid setting emulsion. Next. Then this is what theory. I said that how the binder has to be applied, 2 coats, rolling, and then opening to traffic. Now let us come to practice. So this is a section where surface dressing was applied using a chip spreader. As can be seen, the aggregates are dusty. You can find the dust flowing along with the wind. You can also see the binder getting applied using a binder spreader. wherein you'll find that when the bitumen is spread, some of the nozzles are clogged on the right extreme. There is no application of the binder. So for ensuring a good quality control, uniform spread of the binder becomes mandatory. Next. Second is that, as can be seen, since the bitumen or the emulsion has not been spread uniformly, you'll find that at some location, there is a white band, which means that the nozzles are clogged, the spray is not uniform. So next, you may have to adjust by using a drum. This is a chip spreader attached to a tipper. You can find that the rod has got a good camber. The aggregates, single size aggregates are uniformly spread on the surface, prepared surface. Next. But the issue at this point in this section where we tried or attempted to construct the surface dressing was it was a layer of wet mix macadam. Unfortunately, for rural roads, they do not attempt a mixed design for wet mix macadam. With the result, there's too much of
You can continue, sir.
Yeah, but yeah. So in the case of surface dressing, when there are excess fines, you can see that when it's getting broomed, you find too much of fines on the wet mix macadam. The issue is that when you have excess fines in the wet mix macadam, all your primer will get into the wet mix macadam. There is no binder that will hold all the loose particles together and also ensure some bonding with the next layer that is being laid. Next. You can see that when they're blown with a compressor, there's too much of fines. Therefore, whenever you want to use a surface dressing over wet mix macadam, you ensure that there's a mixed design and the fines are minimum to the possible. And you have to remove all the loose dust from the surface, and the aggregate should be exposed before you lay the layer of bitumen on the layer prime coat. Yeah, next. So you can see here on both ends, the sprayer is not working. There is no bonding will be there on both the ends. As can also be seen, the aggregates are not washed. There's a lot of dust. So when there's a dust on the layer, it will not have embedment with the aggregate, or it will come out. And this is one of the reasons as why the loose aggregates come out when it is exposed to the traffic. Next. This is a case of a mechanized emulsion sprayer and chip spreader being practiced in Kerala. So Hincall has imported this equipment for demonstration purposes. So it has got a tanker for the emulsion, a container to hold the aggregates. It has got a spreader. I think Suvash will be able to explain much better during the panel discussion. We can extend up to 4.4 meter the spray bar. So it can be controlled, the width of the spreader can be controlled. Next. So you can see that there are two. First one is to spray the emulsion. Second is to spray the aggregates. So as can be seen in the earlier photographs which I showed, first I apply the layer of emulsion, allow the emulsion to break, and then the aggregates are spread. Whereas in this case, both are done simultaneously. Initially, the first spray bar sprays the binder. The second spray bar sprays the aggregate. Next. Is the video playing? There's a bottom of the video link. Yeah. As can be seen, you'll find a layer of binder followed by a spread of the aggregates. Both are done simultaneously. Since there are adequate voids, the emulsion breaks and is able to hold the aggregates together. You can see the aggregate spray bar extended for the entire width of 3.75 meters. Next. Next slide. Yeah, this is the finished surface. One of the complaints that we received was that the aggregates are loose. Secondly, in the case of super elevated locations, the emulsion flows to the lower end. It's an issue, but not a major issue that needs attention here. Next. Loose aggregates on the surface is an issue. As I had mentioned in the beginning, loose aggregates will be there because all aggregates need not get embedded. But nevertheless, if you use a pneumatic roller and compact well, it's possible that most of the particles get embedded into the binder and very less quantity of loose aggregates may be there. And with the traffic, the aggregate surface will be dry enough to take up the traffic. However, when they tried to excavate and see whether layers are loose, they found the surface is tough. It's difficult to excavate or any portion wherein they want to check whether the bonding is there or not. Next. So these are finished surface or mechanized surface dressing. I saw that last week in Kerala. It's good. It's a 2-coat surface dressing. Except in the loose aggregates, there cannot be any other complaints from anybody. But with 2 layers surface dressing, this may be adequate to cater to the low volume traffic. Next. So if you look at in Ireland, compare with the Indian specification of Ireland, they also have a 10-14, which means 14 mm aggregate, we have 13.2. They have 10, we have got 9.2. So these aggregates 9.5. So these aggregates are comparable with international specifications. There is nothing more and nothing less. Apply a layer of binder, bigger aggregates, apply a layer of binder and smaller aggregates. The procedure is the same here, whether it is in India or UK or Ireland. So we are adopting one of the best practices adopted elsewhere in the world. But there's a lot of reluctance in the Indian engineers. We'll discuss about that subsequently. Next. So in the do-it-yourself book list, I think this has again been shared with all of you. The binder application rates are already specified. But however, the code guideline also specifies we have to consider the availability of material, equipment, labor charges, and with field trials and verifications. So what we found from the Kerala experience is that perhaps this is again another point of discussion. We may have to increase the quantity of emulsion to be applied on the first coat. Maybe that it can reduce the second coat, but 1.5 kg per square meter of emulsion, we found it to be, we should have a relook. And if needed, we may have to modify based on the field trials. Next. This is something that everybody will be interested to know. What are the cost economics of using the surface dressing? I could get the cost economics from Assam, Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat, Karnataka, Kerala, Madhya Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, and Uttar Pradesh. So these are cost of surface dressing because pertaining to Kerala, the cost of a single coat surface dressing is 124 rupees 82 paise, whereas for 2 coat is 210 rupees. Whereas the cost of premixed carpet is 302 rupees. And for a mixed seal surfacing is 272 rupees. If you look at Tamil Nadu, 95 and 174, 279 and 205. So you can very well see, you can take any state for that matter. The cost of surface dressing is cheaper than premixed carpet and a mixed seal surfacing. And since there are 2 layers of bitumen, they serve as a waterproof layer, ensuring a durable, long-lasting surface and is cost-effective as well. We can discuss about this subsequently. Next. So these are the points for discussion. Should I use either VG10 or emulsion? Will the performance be the same irrespective of whether you use VG10 or a cationic emulsion? Second, aggregates are not getting washed in the Indian scenario. Aggregates are dusty. Is it possible to wash the aggregates? If so, how to be done? Third, in one case, we allow the emulsion to break before the application of aggregates, whereas in the mechanized spreader, which I showed just now, imported from France, we apply the emulsion and then spread the aggregates simultaneously. Is that okay? Fourth, should I use an uncoated aggregate or can I use a pre-coated aggregate? What are the pros and cons? Why there is a hesitance, reluctance for using pre-coated aggregates? The field engineers feel pre-coating is not possible. I think Professor Kandal, based on his rich experience, can enlighten as how pre-coating was done in Jaipur, other places. The third is this dust accumulation. So that's as per specification, second coat can be applied after 2 to 3 weeks. Can it be earlier? The one issue that engineers told is that if there's a delay, there will be dust accumulation. It's difficult to remove the dust. Can it be accelerated? In Kerala, it was done immediately. Is it okay or does it need a change? The other question which the members of the participants have already posted is that why pneumatic roller? Why not a steel roller? What are the issues and concern when I use a steel wheel roller? Loose aggregates. where it is not acceptable by the public? Is there any way to reduce the dosage, loose aggregates from coming out? One case, what they did in Kerala is that they apply a Fox seal on the layer to prevent the loose aggregates coming up. Is that acceptable? Yeah, generally, as per specification, it is not required. But because a lot of public criticism, they are forced to resort to the Fox seal. Next. Rate of spread of aggregate emulsion, that's based on the experience. We personally feel that 1.5 kg per square meter of emulsion is found to be a little lower. Can we have few more trials? We tried a few more trials in Kerala. Perhaps Dr. Anil will study and then tell with the comparative performance. Calibration of chip spreader is to be done. In the case of construction or WBM and WMM, the issues of fines and wet mix macadam is an issue that has to be cleaned before the layer of prime coat is applied. What should be the criteria for application of single coat and two-coat surface dressing? Cost economics. We very clearly said that surface dressing is cheaper than premise carpet with a seal coat or even with mixed seal surfacing. So we need a field performance compared with premise carpet and mixed seal surfacing. So also we should also have a relative performance study of mechanized and semi-mechanized labor-based methods, because that is again requested by Mr. Pradeep Agarwal from the NRIDA. India, we should adopt to manual construction. I think we need quality control. I think in that case, we should also ensure that quality matters, labor is second, the durability and performance are more important than employing more labor. Why engineers are reluctant to use surface dressing? That is something that we need discussion. I am sure that the introduction of a surface dressing theory to practice will pave a lot of discussion in this. We have eminent panelists. There are 7 panelists. I request each panelist to take about 4 to 5 minutes, maybe by 9:15, if all the panelists can complete. We can take up the question that are posed between 9:15 to 9:30. Next. Thank you very much for the opportunity. These are the references. I think I also gratefully acknowledge Professor Kandal, Professor Rajan Chaudhary, Mr. Subhash, Professor Isaac, Anil Raghurathan, Sandeep, Ajit Kumar, Turtle Smart Solutions for organizing this event, Alan Anderson, who shared his experience from Ireland, Shiji Chandran, Hari Unisa, Ajit Kumar, Vishnu, Samson, and engineers of LSJD and KSR DA. Also, Kolas for sponsoring the visit and also demonstrating the working of the mechanized chip spreader. Also, I would like to thank Mr. Puthalingam, RDPR Tamil Nadu, Dr. Anjan Kumar from IIT Guwahati, Dr. Vandana Tare from SGS Institute Indore, Dr. Solanki Ujjwal from Gujarat, Dr. Shankar from NIT Warangal, Dr. Kavita from Rasta, Dr. Anil from CET, and Dr. Ankit Gupta from BHU for sharing the cost details which I presented before you. Thank you. Next. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Now it is open for the panelists to share their thoughts. That's all. Yeah, you can close the presentation.
Thank you, sir. Sir, may I just invite the panel members?
Yeah.
Okay.
You
So
can
good
close the
evening all.
presentation. You can close the presentation, no?
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
So good evening all. Now up next we have the panel discussion, and the moderator for the discussion will be Professor Dr. A. Veeraraghavan. We have 7 eminent panel members with us. We have with us Professor Dr. Prithvi Singh Kandal, Associate Director Emeritus at US National Center for Asphalt Technology. He's a person with immense knowledge in the field of pavement engineering. We also have with us Professor Dr. Rajan Chaudhary, Professor IIT Guwahati. He is also an expert in pavement engineering and author for several reputed publications. We have Dr. Anil R., Professor and Head of Civil Engineering Department, College of Engineering, Trivandrum, and also an STA for PMGSY Kerala. We have with us Engineer Sandeep KG, Chief Engineer, LID and EW Kerala. We have Engineer Anil Kumar RS, Chief Engineer, PMGSY Kerala. Dr. Vishnu R., Assistant Professor, NIT Warangal, and also TK Subhash, Head Technical and Application Support, INCOL. INCOL has been providing the machinery required for the surface dressing in Kerala recently. On behalf of all the panel members, I invite the eminent panel members to this program. Now over to Professor Dr. A. Veeraraghavan for continuing the session. Over to you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jitin. I think may I now request Professor Kandal to share his thoughts on surface dressing. Professor Kandal, please.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But there are many issues you raised. I don't think I can touch upon all of them in 4 or 5 minutes, but I will take few of them. First is the reluctance on the part of our engineers to adopt surface dressing in lieu of premise carpet. I asked the common man like Aam Aadmi, why our engineers are reluctant to adopt surface dressing. Some of them said that our engineers like big budget projects. For some reason, I don't know what the reason. They like a high budget project. Second is that, as you can see, that in case of surface dressing, they have to go out and take a look at the spread rate of binder and the chips. So they have to go out of their air-conditioned office. I'm sorry, I'm being blunt. That's what the Aam Aadmi thinks, And they have to spend time on the site to do all these things, which they don't have to do in case of premise carpet. If the contractor applies less binder, which they cannot in case of surface dressing, because the chips will be lost very quickly, whether it's a rainy season or it's not rainy season, and public will be really mad. In case of premise carpet, we are using 3.5% VG10 or emulsion. Emulsion will, no, I'm sorry, for premise carpet, we are using 3.5% VG grade only. In that case, many contractors use only 2.5%. They save a lot of money on that, and the payment will not fail. It will still look very black and shiny because it's a single coat, single size aggregate. So they'll be okay until the rainfall comes. But in case of surface dressing, this is not the case. They cannot reduce the amount of binder and save money because it will be a disaster right away. So these are the points, they raise. The one issue they raise in reluctance is that the surface looks, if it's not pre-coated, the surface looks very just only aggregate. And the Aam Aadmi will think that the contractor has not applied any binder or bitumen, saved a lot of money. Now for that, I recommend pre-coating in all the projects in India until we get more experience. That way, the public will see some blackish type of surface, and also the sticking will be better. So, personally, I feel that we should go with pre-coating in all the projects, and then as we gain more experience, then we can go with without pre-coating. Pre-coating, as you mentioned, Dr. Veeraraghavan, will also take care of the dusty aggregate.
Yeah.
So that's why I feel that we should go with pre-coating in all our cases. And the other thing is that it's not a rocket science. Our engineers who are reluctant to adopt surface dressing, it's not a rocket science. We have sent, we have been to the moon, Chandrayaan. It's rocket science. What's the big deal about it? We are applying a binder for which we already have experience. We are applying tech code and everything already. The new thing is that we are just spreading chips with a mechanical chip spreader. That's the only thing we have to. So what's new about that? After all, we are all civil engineers. I worked for disaster and PWD for 10 years, and we are all civil engineers. We can't even follow that how to spread the chips. I simply don't understand what's the big thing about it. So that's what I've covered. If there are any more questions, we can.
Yeah, we'll take it up at the end, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are questions. We'll come back.
Yeah.
Dr. Rajan Chaudhary, you have done a lot of webinars on surface dressing. Based on your experience in Northeast, other states, what are your feelings about recommendations on surface dressing? Dr. Rajan Chaudhary.
Thank you, sir. Thank you
Yeah.
for giving this opportunity. First of all, it's a very good moment for me because Professor Kandal is there who guided me through my early PhD days. I very well remember, and then you are there who finally examined my PhD thesis. So it's a wonderful moment to share my thoughts on this particular one. Sir, as one of the concern which is raised very frequently regarding the dust coating part with these aggregates, and as rightly said by Professor Kandal, that can be very well addressed if we are using the pre-coated aggregates, because then that particular case can be taken care, because the dust have to be in the range of 1.5% as we have shown in the gradation. So that, because otherwise you'll not have a good coating with the emulsions. And the other issue which will arise will be breaking of the emulsion. If more dust will be there, then the emulsion will break immediately. So that is the one concern. The survival rate and the performance, in addition to the cost, we can very well understand we are applying 2 coat of bituminous binder over the existing surface. So it is not only the surface dressing which is helping us as a wearing course, it is preventing our entire pavement structure from the intrusion of water, and which is normally a challenging task, especially when we construct rural roads, because we don't have that good side drainages. So if the water stands for a longer period of time, so this presence of a thick film of binder will reduce the damage which will be there to the underlying layers, in addition to. And then the other wonderful part which is observed specifically in northeastern region is we experience a lot of rainfall for a longer period of time. It's more than 4 months, 4 to 6 months in some of the regions. So this aggregates which are lying flat on the surface, having height of bitumen, which is around 75% of that aggregate average least dimension, which you have mentioned, or any equal to NMS. So it provides drainage paths. So even if you are driving over during a rain, you get a good skid resistance. So that's another wonderful advantage, because nowadays a lot of two-wheelers especially flying over these rural roads. So that another gives a good aspect to this particular one. The one part which is shared regarding the spreading of the aggregate and the emulsion. In the do-it-yourself booklet also we mentioned that we need to spread the chips immediately after the emulsion, and should not be the chip spreader should not be at a distance more than 30 meters. It can simultaneously. Unfortunately, the details of the bitumen spreader and the chip spreader is very well documented in our IRC SP34, which is there for construction equipment. And it gives, because that binder spreader or emulsion spread distributor has to be there for prime coat, tech coat applications, which keeps on going. So we don't require any special equipment for bitumen spreader. Only part is the chip spreader. Now, chip spreader needs to be in that range, especially when we are working with emulsions, because emulsions will break. Now, if you go for a longer gap between the emulsion and the chip spreader, and then the roller will come. So then it is, that's why we restrict the distance between the bitumen spreader and the chip spreader, so that emulsion doesn't break. The other concern which was raised by that, why do we have pneumatic tire rollers? Pneumatic tire rollers especially helps us to bridge these small depressions, especially otherwise that is not possible, because in steel wheel rollers, that doesn't, so it gives our small depressions are left without embedding those aggregates. So if you have pneumatic tire rollers, it is better, it gets a better embedment of the aggregates in small depressions. And so riding quality definitely, it will give us a better riding quality, because we have controlled the shape of the aggregates and it is lying flat on the surface. And with these 2 coats, we will surely have a better riding quality expected than what we can arrive in the pre-mixed carpet or mixing surfaces.
Yeah. Thank you, Rajan. I will come back to the questions. We will come back again.
Sure,
So we'll go to, I think before we go to the academicians, I request Engineer Sandeep to share his thoughts.
Thank you, sir. Good evening to all.
Yeah.
And I'll be talking with respect to the field trials we have already done. We started with a manual the sensor, spreading, and we miserably failed, and we were waiting along for to get the mechanical spreader, and after 1 year waiting, we got Hincall support, and they have given the imported version as a trial basis. And we started our work at Trivandrum, and Sir has also joined in that 1-day trial. And what we observed is the difficulty in getting a single sized aggregate, because we will be having a range of aggregates if even after a proper gradation, and sometimes it will be in one lot we will be getting a good aggregate, and the second lot it will be having a range of aggregate, and we also have some dust content in that, and that is also having some difficulty with us. And when spreading, we observed that the first layer is almost intact, and when it comes to the second layer of spreading, there is a loose aggregate which is more than 30%, and we have many complaints from the inhabitants that they're having issues when they're riding on the bike rather than in four-wheeler. So it's from the observation that we have to reduce the spread of aggregates in the second layer so that we can minimize that loose aggregates. So that is my suggestion. And also we have to increase the spread binder in the first layer and also in the second layer so as to get a better embedment. And the pre-coating as in Kerala conditions will be difficult to have that. But again, we have to get it mixed with somewhere else, and we have to stockpile it and again convey it from the location, and that transportation, everything will be a matter. And now at the present situation, we are able to manage that. Only some improvisation is to be made in that. So that is to be addressed, sir. So we need, we have already done one road, and again, the Fox seal, whether we'll be able to do that, I don't know, because it is not as there in the code. So if it is permitted, then it will be okay, so that we can apply a minimum of some 0.2 kg per meter square, so that we'll get a good appearance of the surface, and we can limit within the budget also. That is my suggestion, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. We will come back.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, sir.
Engineer Anil Kumar, PMGSY.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, this was a very interesting topic, sir. And we had completed one road, sir, in the last month. And you had visited in this site, sir, last week.
Yeah.
Sir, the three main doubts for me are, one is the use of pneumatic rollers. We can see that while rolling with the steel rollers, the metal is crushed, sir. So by using pneumatic rollers, we can manage this, sir. This is one, sir. And the second is, sir, the emulsion and the chips are spreading simultaneously, sir. So is there any technical problems for this, sir? And the third point is, sir, can we apply the first coat and second coat simultaneously, sir? In one portion, that the down gradient, we had executed the two layers simultaneously. So there was no problem during the heavy rain. And in another stretch, the first layer is done and the second layer is not done. So there is washing away of the aggregates during heavy rains. So these are the three concerns for me, sir.
Yeah, we'll come back. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Anil?
Good evening, sir. Can you hear?
Yeah, please. You can also respond to some of the comments that are made by the engineers. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sir, almost, I think this is the first time they are constructing the mechanized surface dressing, especially in India. This is the first time they are constructing in Kerala. And even on the first day also, I was present there during their construction. I could find that there are some hurdles that was faced by even the person who is handling this one. I think the expertise of the driver or operator is also very important in case of mechanized surface dressing when you are doing, and the quantity of the aggregate is to be spread and other things to be noted very carefully. and we could see that the stretches, like the engineers has already mentioned, the chief engineer has already mentioned, that they are constructed with simultaneously bringing these two layers. That is one laid, and the next day onwards they have constructed the second layer also. So in that case, and the other, they have waited for 30 days for the laying of the second layer. So we can do some evaluation of these two kind of stretches, how they are performing also. And excess, we could see that in the first day, I think there was excess aggregate was spread, and that leads to some problems with the locals also. I think the last time, I think when you came over there, that day they could manage to spread the aggregate, which is not that extra, we could not see on top of the surface after the rolling. And at the same time, I think you will be knowing that that day they have spent more emulsion, like around 2.2 or 2.4 kg they have tried, and that gives a little more embedding of aggregates into the bituminous or emulsion layers. And another issue what we find is that brooming is also not possible in that case, because this is a rural road construction. Like brooming, manual brooming is only possible, and no mechanized brooming equipments are available here. So that finds to be another issue. And these are some of the things that we could find during the construction of this process.
Yeah. Thank you, Anil. I think Dr. Vishnu.
Sir, I'll make it very quick, 3 points. Sir, I think the lack of practical experience for the engineers is one of the major reasons why this surface dressing has been caved for several years. So I think majority of the engineers who would like to implement, they should visit the site in Trivandrum and gain practical information on this. And the second part is pre-coating the aggregates with bitumen would be a better option than when we think about pre-coating with emulsion, because when we have dust on this, there is higher chances of faster breaking. So that is the second point. And my concern here is, say, when we have an unprecedented increase in slow-moving traffic, where we are actually implementing surface dressing, I think there can be a lot of failures, like shear failures, because of excessive traction. So this is my concern, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Vishnu. I think Mr. Subhash, we can now talk about emulsion, binder, whether widget and which one is better at different climatic conditions as well. Yeah.
Right, sir. Thank you very much. And thank you for this opportunity. Sir, coming to chip seal, the industry have been trying to promote this chip seal for quite some time. Maybe we had decades of bad experiences with chip seal, because of which the various state bodies are not willing to try out again. But when the industry, when NARADA took a special interest in promoting this concept, the obvious challenge was in terms of the machineries available. And then we have been interacting with various bodies, and then we've been interacting with KSRDA also. And then we took the initiative of getting the mechanized machineries, mechanized paver in place. And then it took a much longer time to get us the machine. Now, while ordering the machine also, we had this dilemma: should we have a bituminous chip sealer or an emulsion-based chip sealer? So we decided to go ahead with the emulsion-based chip sealer, primarily because emulsion-based chip sealers have got wide utility compared to bitumen. Because as you also mentioned in your presentations, if the surface is dry, if the aggregates are dry, bitumen can be applied. But when the surface is damp, or if the aggregates are damp, bitumen will have its own difficulty. So both has got its own applications, but emulsion provides a wider opportunity to apply chip seals. Now, the second aspect was regarding the aggregate cleanliness. Now, dust is obviously a no-no for chip seal. You need to have clean, single-sized aggregates. Now, the option is maybe we could look at pre-coating of the aggregates. Now there is reluctance to pre-coat because of the operational issues that could pose in terms of transportation, in terms of making a hot mix plant available. Those are the typical challenges being raised. But at the same time, what is happening in Europe, in the Colas other companies, they have moved over to high float immersion concept. High float immersion concept is typically an immersion which would be receptive to even dusty aggregates. Right, that is typically an anionic immersions, not cationic immersions. But with anionic high float immersions, the system can handle even dusty aggregates. We didn't push that because we don't have the specifications in place for anionic high float immersions right now. So that will take another 1 or 2 years if you have to go in that direction to have the specifications in place. But that is a technology which is already established. Now, that's third question was regarding the timelines for immersion and aggregates to apply. Now, typically what is being recommended in the codes as well as what is being practiced also is that there should not be much gap between immersion spray and aggregate spray. The immersion should be breaking on the aggregate. Immersion should not be breaking before the aggregate falls in place. So it should be breaking on the aggregate. That is where the embedment would happen better. And the timelines for first and second layer, in fact, the codal portions talks about 1 or 2 weeks gap between the first and second layer. But from our Colas experience, they confirm that both the layers can be laid on the same day. There need not be any gap. The only thing that to be taken into account is maybe the amount of loose aggregate or excess aggregate that are being applied. That is something we need to control. We struggle with the application rate of aggregates and immersion in this particular project. But with experience, with the operator gaining confidence, that could be easily controlled. And then we are also planning to have somebody experienced from Colas on board maybe for 1 or 2 months, just to handhold in terms of fine-tuning these applications in the coming months. That is a commitment from our end. PTR and steel rollers is already discussed. And the loose aggregate is something typically what is foreseen, what is expected is a 3 to 5% loose aggregates. But in this particular project, we had much more than that. That is primarily because of the lack of experience or lack of maybe controls during the application. Maybe in the upcoming projects, this will be improved. But what is expected is a 3 to 5% loose aggregate on the surface. And
Yeah.
overall, just one last point, sir.
Yeah.
Globally, bitumen immersion consumption, 50% of the bitumen immersion consumption is for surface dressing applications globally. So it is a well-established technique, proven technique. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just need to copy it. So there is some bit of fine controls required, and that will be streamlined in the upcoming months. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think there are a number of questions that are posted in the chat box or the messages box. I'll take up one after another. I request Professor Kandal to kindly enlighten and respond to the questions. The first question is that, again, since Rajan Chaudhary has already explained why a pneumatic roller, the question is again posed. Please explain why pneumatic roller should be used. Can we not use a static roller or a twin drum vibratory roller? Professor Kandal, please.
Yes, I prefer the pneumatic tire roller because on the rural roads we might have depressions on the road on WMM or so to take care of the breezing effect, pneumatic roller will be the best.
Yeah.
And we also have codal provision that in case there's some problem in getting the pneumatic roller, then one can use a tandem steel roller.
Yeah.
So I just go with that. And I don't know if we specify a pneumatic tire roller in case of BC or any other project, people get it there. I mean, it's a matter of everybody's on the same level field, So if you require pneumatic tire roller, we should be able to get it. There's no problem.
Okay. The second question is that can VG10 sustain hot temperatures of 40 degrees and above? What are the chances of rutting?
Yeah, chance of rutting, this is just a 20 millimeter thick, layer, the single size aggregates. There is zero chance of rutting.
The other question is that will VG10 will be able to take up a very high temperature in Rajasthan and other places?
Oh yeah, shouldn't be any problem. If my binder rate is within limits, if I don't use too much binder, which I doubt many contractors will do it, then there won't be any bleeding problem, no question of any rutting problem. Somebody along the same line, somebody mentioned that some problems like, I don't know, it's not a question, but about how do we get single size aggregate? The question to them is, how do we get a single size aggregate for premix carpet? There's no problem in getting the single size for premix carpet, then why is there a problem in the surface dressing?
Yeah.
Also, they say that what about the pre-coating? Where do we get the hot mix plant? But there are so many hot mix plants right now throughout India that even premix carpet is done mostly through hot mix plant. So if you have to pre-coat with 1% bitumen, and people are saying that we have problem, we don't have any hot mix plant. You do have hot mix plant. You have been doing premix carpet. I'm sorry for the diversion, but
yeah, thank you. I think Professor Rajan, there's a question about the polished stone value. PSV should be minimum 60 as per both MORD and MORT specifications. Is it possible to get the polished stone value tested in STA and PTA? And how many will be able to get the test done? Is water absorption of 1% is a very stringent specification.
about the PSV, I don't know.
That's why I requested Rajan Chaudhary to share.
Yeah, I don't know the numbers. I don't think I can make any comment right now.
Yeah. Generally, when the aggregates are used for BC, again, we have the stone polishing value. I don't think that is an issue. We have a number of institutions that have got, many of the NABL accredited laboratories have got. So it is not an issue. There's other comment about the rates shown in the presentation are for ideal conditions. If aggregates are to be pre-coated or aggregates are to be washed, savings will be less. I do agree with that. But what will be the cost of washing the aggregates? What will be the cost of pre-coating the aggregates? 0.75 to 1%. Definitely, the cost of the previous surface dressing is much lower than previous carpet or surface dressing. So it should not be an issue of the cost. Sir, Professor,
Yeah, it shouldn't be issue. I forgot to mention that about the PSV, that we do have a very high macro texture in case of surface dressing. So the surface will always be rough, It's not like BC where we have a dense mix and the surface has aggregate surface as polished, Even if it is polishing takes place in surface dressing, we got such a high macro texture that we won't have any problem with the skidding or anything like that.
Yeah, that's what even Rajan Chaudhary had mentioned about that. There's a question for the Assistant Executive Engineer Subdivision Parambra. The question is that how we can use this large size chip spreader machines in rural roads. So the demonstration that we have done is on rural roads, on PMGSA roads. As I mentioned, the width of the spreader can go up to 4.4. It can be even 3.75. For rural roads of 3 meter width, it should not be an issue. We can extend the spread bar or we can lower it. So it is not an issue as far as the rural road construction is concerned. There's an issue in Kerala also about the availability of pneumatic rollers. I have suggested that in Tamil Nadu, there are a lot of works going on. You'll get enough number of pneumatic rollers. I think once you introduce that in the specification, the contractors will be able to get a pneumatic roller. That should not be an excuse for not using a pneumatic roller. The pre-coated aggregates, use of clean chips, PTR are used only in airport and expressways. Secondly, here there's also a question about laying of second coat after 2 weeks might increase the cost. I do not know how the cost will increase if it delayed by 2 weeks. It should not be an issue. But what we have tried in Kerala is that we have done immediately. The surface is good. It's not an issue here. Jiju Vivekanandan has asked, is it possible to provide bitumen emulsion layer over a finished second layer of aggregate instead of pre-coating aggregates, as that can alleviate agitation. Yes, we do agree. That's why we are recommending use a pre-coated aggregates rather than the dry aggregates. So Guru Vittal has asked a question. Anionic emulsions are suitable for limestone aggregate. What we have in majority is a siliceous aggregate which require cationic emulsion. How can you use anionic emulsion? Subhash, could you please respond?
So in this, it is not the conventional anionic emulsions. I mentioned about high float anionic emulsions. So in this high float emulsion, there will be certain cohesion builders also part of the design. So this would ensure that it will bind with the aggregates, all types of aggregates.
Yeah. Dr. Shankar has posed a question. Any guidelines or criteria to select the candidate roads for surface dressing? So according to the ministry, up to 2,000 commercial vehicles per day, you can go for surface dressing. From 0 to 20, 20 to 100, 100 to 1,000, 1,000 to 3,000, 2,000, it can go. So there is no criteria. It can be used for any type of surfacing. Even on existing bituminous surfacing, it can be used as a renewal coat. For all the low volume roads, especially PMJS roads, surface dressing is the preferred. But as I suggested earlier, for high traffic and high rainfall area like Kerala, two-coat surface dressing is preferred. In case of low rainfall, low traffic conditions, single-coat surface dressing will be adequate. So there's a question from Erode subdivision. Please let me know about the benefit of mixing plastic granules about 10% produced from collection of plastic through solid waste management during the heating of aggregates in the premix carpet. Does it give good results in terms of binding? Sundar has asked. I think we have used the waste plastics. There's a separate study that we carried out. What we found is that the moisture-induced damages are lesser when you were used waste plastic, but not much of difference in terms of life of the pavement. It can also be used in low-volume roads. We have studied the evaluation. I can share the report with you, Sundar, if you want to have more details. There are two questions, two expert members who are participating here and ask questions. Mr. Venkateshwar Rao, Ramanalla, you can ask your questions. You can unmute and ask. Mr. Venkateshwar Rao? Or Mr. Avinash Sankranti? You raise the hand.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I'm a contractor from Karnataka, sir.
Yeah.
So I have few queries on contractors and engineers point of view, sir. Sir, pre-coating might like it doesn't like you are talking about the percentage of bitumen coating or the emulsion coating, but the more cost will come from the hot mix plant in terms of operating it. And moreover, for PTRs, I don't know like PMJSY or PWD. We call it as PWD in Karnataka, sir. It's the Public Works Department. So almost no contractor has PTRs right available with them. All they have is soil compactors or tandem rollers, because only they are used for all the projects. And loose aggregates is a problem. So recently, I have visited a site which I think Hincol has executed. It has been, I think, past 6 months, sir. Still, I can see the loose aggregates a lot, and locals are complaining a lot about it. And 2 weeks, I have posted a query also, sir. 2 weeks, it will increase the cost. Sir, laying cost, it will increase by 15%, sir. I'm talking about the total cost. 15% will be increased. The cost will increase by 15% if we lay a second layer after 2 or 3 weeks, sir.
Any other question?
No, and that's all, sir.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to convey.
Yeah, thank you. I think will Sandeep be able to answer this question? Will the delay in construction, will it increase the cost by 15%? Subhash should be able to tell that. Subhash?
Yes, sir. In fact, he is referring to the project in Hubli. In Hubli, actually, there were a lot of issues. The emulsion sprayer available was not a standard sprayer. It was very substandard. locally fabricated one. Even the aggregate spreader was not of good quality. There were a lot of issues in the application because that's with locally available machineries. So we couldn't achieve a proper finish with that material. Application was substandard. So that should not be taken as a reference for this discussion because we knew that this is going to be a problematic area because we don't have desired machineries. So
no, sir. The question
that-
is, will it
yeah.
increase the cost by 10 or 15% if you lay after second week or third week? The second coat, which
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Typically, the chip loss that is expected after first layer or whatever layer, first layer or second layer, is in the range of 3 to 5%. So
Okay.
5% chips could be lost from the surface. But there is no additional cost because of that. That 5% chips are lost from the process. So I don't know where from you're getting this 15% cost increase because cost is not getting increased. You're losing 5% of the aggregate. That's all.
No, the second layer laying cost, sir. So approximately what idea which I've got from recently speaking to one of your representatives is per day they are costing for 1.5 kilometer. It's 1 lakh per day. Am I right, sir?
It's the machine cost that matters.
You're
It's not
talking
nothing
about the
else.
machine cost. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I understand that. I understand why that is increase in cost because of the delay in construction.
Yes, sir. 26 rupees per square meter. It will be increased, sir.
Agreed.
Approximately around
But
26
it can be done immediately also. That's what they have done in Kerala. We have learned about that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Alan also is here. I think Professor Kandal wants to say something.
Yeah, about the 2 or 3 weeks delay between the two courts, there's no hard and fast rule, but we have to make a specification which is guarantees quite good success throughout the country. Now, Kerala may not have any problem in putting the second layer right away, but it will be a problem in general for the whole country. So, because the lower layer has to stabilize, stabilize means it has to come to the ALD, average risk dimension, flat, especially it's more important for flaky particles. We have to stabilize that before we put the another layer on top of that. So the only traffic can reduce the voids and also make sure that we got a stable first application. Otherwise, the second application won't have a good stabilized base there. So in general, although Kerala might have good success, but I would not change that requirement of 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah. Thank you. I think with Alan is here. Alan, could you please share your thoughts about the time delay between the first and second layer? Alan? Alan was there?
Hi, yeah.
Yeah,
thanks for
Alan
having
Anderson,
me.
yeah. Please.
Yes,
Yeah.
Alan Anderson here from Colas, Ireland. I suppose just to touch on that point, I suppose there's different schools of thought. I understand where Professor Kandel is coming from. It probably would be a good idea to get the aggregate properly embedded over a number of time. In Ireland, the reason we do it like that on the granular material, the newly laid material, if we get a failure on the first layer, when the traffic, and if there's a failure, it comes back down to the granular material. So we find we get a lot of deep potholing then in the granular material because there is no seal on the road. Typically, we do both layers together. So I think in the Kerala project, we've tried a number of different methods of doing it. And we've tried that method of leaving it for a couple of weeks. And then we did the second layer. The one thing I noticed in the Kerala project was the bigger aggregate, we did have a lot of loose again. So we had a lot of loose material on the road. And when we came across on the second layer to lay it, obviously that material isn't going to be stuck there if it's loose on the road. So we would need to get that mechanically swept. And that's something else that I suppose, look, you've picked up on a lot of the processes there to that would improve the project. The Kerala project, I'd say we've done a lot of different methods. I wrote just a brief message in the chat there, but I'll touch on the project while I'm live here. I think it's important that we study what we've done on the site, from increasing the binder rates, from reducing the aggregate rates in certain areas, to the type of rolling you did. And then another thing to mention, I suppose, the biggest one is The entire project that was done in Kerala was done with kind of dusty aggregate. The aggregate was not very clean, definitely not as clean standard that I expect that we use here in Ireland. And this is something maybe that definitely needs to be improved, whether it's pre-coating it or whether it's doing getting them clean. So, as I say, it'd be great to see how the project in Kerala develops over a number of months, and see where the best project you're getting there. And I do think that it will be vastly improved by cleaning the aggregate or pre-coating the aggregate. So, look, again, thank you very much for having me, and thanks to Incola and the Kerala government for having me, and thanks for having me on tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan, for participating in the webinar. I think Mr. Venkateshwar Rao Ramanalla, he has been raising the hands for quite some time. Could you please unmute and then ask your question? Venkateshwar Rao? I'm not able to get him. Dr. Rajan?
Yes, sir. So one important aspect which I found with most of the discussions going on, especially the whole theory behind or the idea behind this use of surface dressing is to improve the service life of the rural roads, because we understand what are the current challenges which are there with the pre-mixed carpet, and how those can be successfully addressed, especially with surface dressing. So that is one thought. It is not just two mixes, we have options and we can pick up one. We are picking up surface dressing because of the inherent benefits which it has, along with the cost part. Yes, cost part is the one which is again a major impact, especially for a very vast rural road network which we have. So this is having a really, we can clearly understand if you put a binder layer, so it surfaces, then you are putting an aggregate which gives you a good wearing surface, especially for the movement of time. Secondly, this 2 to 3 weeks can help us in the other way around, along with the embedded aggregates. See, it may not be the problem with the surface dressing layer. If the problem is with the underlying base course, when the traffic ply over it, immediately you can see how the structure, because surface dressing is not a structure layer. If your base is weak, definitely that structure layer will not be able to survive, because you'll have major depressions created. So that 2 to 3 weeks will help us embedded, and even smaller exercises will have been successfully. Even in a tray, if you put a bitumen and embed 75% of an aggregate height in it, you can't remove it. No traffic, slow moving or high moving traffic will remove it. It is so highly embedded inside it. So if once it gets embedded 75%, then no chances. The problem may be the addition is not good, which may be because of immersion, not dusty aggregates. Immersion is not good enough, because that immersion also needs to be checked for its, because we create 7 many requirements are there. So good quality immersion is also required. It's not only good quality of aggregates, which is. If that is there, definitely there are no if and buts why an aggregate once 75% embedded in a bitumen can come out with the type of traffic which we have with my personal.
Yeah, thank you, Rajan. Mr. Venkateshwar Rao, he has been raising the hand but not responding. Could you please unmute? You raise the hand, but you are not asking the question. Yeah, I think Kuthalingam.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening, good evening. Yeah.
And I am Kuthalingam from Tamil Nadu State, sir, Chief Engineer.
Yeah.
The presentation given was very nice, and from the engineer side and from field point of view, I have to raise some of the questions, sir.
Yeah.
From field side, currently the manpower shortage is too much for supervising the work. One thing, and another thing, when you anything failed in the part of new technology, the department engineers are facing the departmental actions, so that give more fear on the field engineers related to the doing the new technology work, sir. And the field difficulties, the contractor, we have to give some training and other thing to the contractor, they have to understand, because conventionally the premix carpet and everything, they are more conventional than the new technology. So they need to be trained properly, and the equipment should be available with the contractor. That is one thing. And without some confidence on the new technology, going on a larger scale will make a bigger problem. Nowadays, the social media is more vibrant. In Tamil Nadu, we are facing lot of problem. Immediately on the next day, they will remove the layer, and the road, they said the road was laid in poor quality. Like that, we are facing the problem. So these kind of issues are give some sort of fear on the new technology in implementing in the field.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Puthalingam. We'll come back. Any other question? Venkatesh Rao again, hand is not lowered. Vishnu, you wanted to add something about the low traffic and embedment. Could you answer?
I think in the case of a low volume road, when we only have a 3.5 meter width, there are less chances of wheel wander there. So even if we open it up for 2 weeks after the first layer is constructed, there are less chances of this loose aggregates to get embedded. So maybe an additional process initially during the construction stage would be helping us. Okay. That is what I feel.
Okay. Siju?
Sir, one thing to add. And in fact, first of all, thank you very much for applying to Trivandrum and being with us for one full day, teaching us the problems and all. It helped us a lot, in fact. And one question is, the pre-coating that is suggested is for the top layer only, right? The second question is, one defect that we have seen is flowing of bitumen or the flowing of emulsion to the sides and gradients and also in super elevated portions. So does it has anything to do with the viscosity of bitumen, or can we eliminate that by increasing the viscosity of bitumen?
Yeah. Professor Kandal, could you please respond to that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Raj, yeah. Please.
Yeah. First, let me address what TK Subhas had already mentioned about emulsion and viscosity grade bitumen. Then I'll talk about the other issue. Many people think that there is no need for emulsion to break before we allow the aggregate. In fact, aggregates will be applied right away, so that there's a necking effect. When we use emulsion will wet to the more height, and when it becomes black, it will shrink, and the neck would still be there. So emulsion is preferred than VG10 by most people. Now, about this issue which was raised, what was the issue? I just forgot. Last speaker.
Schedule.
Okay. About drainage.
Gradient. In case of gradient.
And also in super elevated portions.
Yeah. So for that, people like TK Subhas, there's a wide range of viscosity of those rapid setting emulsion. So they can make a special emulsion for that project where they have a lot of super elevated curves and have a lot of problems. So emulsion can be made by asking the emulsion supplier to supply some high viscosity emulsion within the same range. It can be done.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Rajan? Rajan, you want to ask something? Add value. I think you're muted, Rajan.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, just to add this particular one, the rapid setting grade, there are RS1 and RS2. We are recommending RS2 for surface dressing. So in that RS2 also, we have a viscosity, a good range of viscosity. So within that particular range of viscosity, especially for that one, we can consider, if required, for viscosity for RS2 grades having a higher viscosity. But then already we have the two RS1 and RS2 which have, and we recommend RS2 specifically for this one. Yeah. That is having a higher viscosity.
Yeah. Anil, you can add.
Sir, regarding the evaluation part, how can we evaluate these type of surfaces in roads?
Yeah, thank you, Suju. Rajan, can you say how to evaluate the finished performance of these surface dress roads?
So the important one aspect, simple aspect we discussed earlier in the do-it-yourself booklet also. The one important part is the embedment part. So if we are able to, because if we are able to see that because we have the NMS of those aggregates which we are using, if after the immersion has been set after 2 to 3 weeks, if we are able to see that that thickness only the 13 mm, so only 3 mm is there on the top, that much subsidence is there in the immersion, it is good enough. So that is the one, and this presence of a small amount of loose aggregates, this will be a little amount of loose aggregates will be there, because when this chip spreader comes, some of the aggregates topple down and they get picked up with the rollers also. So that has to be, once the surface has been rolled with a pneumatic tire roller also, some loose aggregates may be there, so that needs to be broomed. So whether a mechanical broomer or manually, those loose aggregates needs to be removed. So that has to be taken care before we are going for the second layer of surface dressing also. That loose aggregate should not be there.
That may be another. Yeah.
So regarding the performance, sir, over a period of time, 1 year, 2 years, how do we evaluate that one?
No, since it is only a functional layer, not a structural layer, the
Usually
distresses may be in terms of moisture-induced damage like formation of potholes, raveling, or loose aggregates on surface. So the rating quality is one parameter which can be checked with respect to initial. Secondly, about the moisture-induced damage, formation of potholes, patch area. Thirdly, about raveling, area of raveling, and the pavement condition index can be developed for the surface dressing. How it deteriorates with the traffic, with age, can be studied.
And as I earlier also raised, most of the concerns which I have observed, it's not especially, it's the problem with the subraid and the base and subbase which has been constructed, which is not as per the standards. So the problem with the subbase and bases will not be addressed with the construction of a good quality of surface dressing. That we have to clearly take in mind.
Yeah.
If it is there in base course, surface dressing will not be able to address whether whatever other even bituminous concrete is not able to address it, is just able to delay it for some time, but it cannot control that particular distresses.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is time that we should wind up. We are 9:45 was the maximum time that is given. So I take this opportunity to thank all the panelists, Turtle Smart Solutions, for organizing the event. There are many questions that are posed with respect to the pre-coated aggregates with the uncoated aggregates. It has been broadly discussed and understood that pre-coated aggregate will be a better solution than the uncoated aggregates. But there are issues and concerns for pre-coating. That issue has to be sorted out. But the cost is not going to increase because of 0.75% or 1% binder. Preferably, instead of uncoated aggregates, pre-coated aggregates are better. Number two, as Rajan Chaudhary mentioned, the quality of emulsion matters. Perhaps we need little more research on the viscosity of the emulsion that we have to use for surface dressing. I think Subhash will be able to throw more light. We'll discuss further and evaluate and come out with the appropriate quality of emulsion for using in surface dressing. Third, as Rajan mentioned, 70 to 75% of the aggregate get embedded in the binder. So the question of loose aggregates coming out may be there initially, but when you use a pneumatic roller, preferably, the aggregates get embedded. But when there are undulations on the waterborne macadam or wet mix macadam, when the aggregates do not get embedded, then what is the issue? So again, in this chip spreader, which was brought by the Hincall, there is a possibility of increasing the dosage of the emulsion. It can be set, preset. We have tried for a small section, increasing the dosage of the emulsion from 1.5 to 2.2. Perhaps when Anil carries out an evaluation study, he should be able to tell whether increasing the dosage of emulsion will result in better quality of surface dressing. The other issue which is raised by Mr. Kuthalingam about the training, yes, training is mandatory, essential, it cannot be avoided. So contractors are also to be trained, seeing is believing. So I could request Subhash to organize some field construction demonstration projects wherein both the engineers as well as contractors are present. Let them get all the doubts clarified. So once we are thorough, we have become an expert in surface dressing, there should not be any issue. The initial hiccup is only fear. What will happen? Will the press bring out an issue when there are loose aggregates? So as and when the problem comes, we'll try to sort it out. So I think that as the STAs and PTAs of the PMJC program and the academic institutions are there to handhold with you, with the industry provider like Hincall, who are there to supply the emulsion, the chip spreader, and also with the attachment that is available from Gujarat. We have tried all these are possible. So the cost need not go up because of the higher charges of the chip spreader. We can use even the attachment, that is not an issue. So once the quality is ensured, this question of loose aggregates coming out, performance evaluation may not be an issue. I'm sure that if we can all work together and make surface dressing a big successful for low volume roads, because it is cost effective, durable, long lasting rural roads. And that is what we are expected to provide. So I take this opportunity to thank all the panelists, all the participants, as well as Turtle Smart Solutions for inviting all of us to share our thoughts and respond to questions. This is not the end, this is only the beginning. If you have any further questions, please post your questions. We'll be able to respond to all your questions in the form of question and answer, which will be shared with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I hope we all had a fruitful discussion in this meeting. Now, if the participants have any further questions, you can post in the WhatsApp group. We will have discussions, or maybe required, we will forward that to the panel members and get the required answers for you. Now, I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Veeraraghavan, sir, for taking his valuable time and making a detailed presentation, and also for moderating the session. We also wish to thank all the eminent panel members for investing your time and discussing with us with your practical knowledges and enlightening with your understanding about surface dressing and its applications. On behalf of the organizers, I also wish to thank all the participants for your patient listening. We wish you all a happy Christmas and a prosperous New Year ahead. Thank you all. Good night.